Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
The San Diego Council on Literacy brings you Literacy for All with your host, Jose Cruz.
Welcome to the show. I'm Jose Cruz from the San Diego Council on Literacy. This is Literacy for All Radio. We're on WS Radio, and happy to have as our guest, second show of the year, the president of Newsome Associates, David Rosen. David, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Good morning, Jose.
So glad to have you. And let's give folks a perspective of things. I'm in San Diego, California. It's a little chilly for us out here, but where are you, David?
I'm in icy Boston, Massachusetts.
That's
about
what I thought.
15 degrees right now.
15 degrees. Wonderful. But you got a lot of water out there, and we did recently, too, so that's a good thing. Anyway, just kind of giving the big picture here. And we'll start really with the big picture with your company, Newsome Associates. Is this a nonprofit organization?
It's basically me. It's the name for the consulting that I do.
Very good. And do you have folks who work on your team? I know it's you. Do you have other folks who are doing, and we'll talk about the mission of your organization, who are helping you out?
I work with a fair number of projects and lots of collaborators. But in terms of Newsome Associates, that's me. I'm the CEO, I'm the custodian, I'm the receptionist. I do everything.
And why Newsome Associates? Where does the name come from?
Actually, it's the name of the street that I live on.
Excellent. And tell us the mission of your organization. It's going to give us a little bit of the background for our conversation. David's helping us out by taking 4 segments for the show today. So what is the mission of Newsome Associates, David?
Basically, what I do is provide a variety of kinds of research, training, and consulting with adult basic skills organizations at the local level, state level, national level, and I also do a fair amount of international work. For example, I have projects right now in Haiti and also in Liberia in West Africa.
Goodness. And do you go to these places, or do you do this remotely? Okay, so you do some traveling.
No, I travel, and I also do a fair amount of work online.
Excellent. Now, one of the things we're going to talk about, David, is the new digital divide. And, I just thinking back when I first heard that term, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years ago, people would say, well, we thought we closed the digital divide. So tell us about your focus in that particular area.
Sure. Well, I've been interested in integrating technology and adult literacy and basic skills, including English for speakers of other languages, for, since the 1980s, before the Internet. Of course, when the Internet got started in the mid-1990s, that really elevated the potential for learning. And so I've been focusing on that since then. It was about the mid-1990s that the term digital divide was first used, and it was in a major report about that time that came from the RAND Corporation. And basically what it described was this huge gap between the well-educated and well-to-do on one side and everybody else on the other.
Right.
And the Internet at that time was being very actively used by the well-educated and well-to-do. There was also a gap in the original divide between men and women. Men, of course, played a much more prominent role in using the Internet in those days. That gap has been eliminated. If anything, women are playing a larger role than men.
It's easy for us to forget, just because we live this. I mean, I recollect a time. I mean, everybody has now their smartphone, or most people do, and that's part of using the technology. If you had a computer back then, let's say 1992 or so, you're kind of a pioneer of sorts. If that was something you had at home. And I guess we kind of forget that as much as now we're pretty much addicted, to our smartphones and the technology. But there was a time when did we really believe that this technology would expand to the point not just that everyone would have it, but that it would be used for educational purposes?
It was interesting when the Rand Corporation study came out. They predicted this really wild idea that no one believed, that everybody would be using something called email. And within 5 years, that was the case.
Right, and I mean, and I think even today when I'm doing this and purchasing my own ticket for a complicated flight or a trip from San Diego to anywhere else and back, I thought that was something travel agents did, and two, it was also just beyond me that anybody would put their credit card information online. So things have really changed. So now here we are, where we are today.
Yes, indeed.
So in terms of the new digital divide and how people are using or not using the internet for their personal and work-related learning, what's happening out there? Is it still certain populations that are haven't caught up? A lot of us had to catch up, and now we're there, and a lot of folks are maybe still falling in that gap.
Yes, but first, there's a wonderful study that was done in actually the report was 2016. The survey was done in 2015 by the Pew Research Center, and so a lot of my comments are going to be based on that 2015 survey. One of the things that the 2016 report said is that for many years concerns about digital divide centered primarily on whether people had access to digital technologies. And this is still a problem for some people. Not, I think, so much in San Diego, but in many parts of the country, particularly in rural areas and in some urban areas, literally getting access to the internet or access to computers is a problem. But then they go on to say that those who are worried about these issues now also focus on the degree to which people succeed or struggle when they use technology to try to navigate their environments, solve problems, and make decisions. This is the new digital divide. And again, it's a digital divide between those who have means, as they say, who are well-to-do on the one hand, who can afford to buy the technology and have it at home, multiple technologies, and in particular, the gap between people who are low income, also between people of color and people who are older. So it is still a digital divide, but the digital divide is really now around how to use technology in your work, home, community environment to solve problems, make decisions, get essential information, and I would add to that, use the technologies for learning.
So, I want us to come back to that specifically, David. But I had said I didn't have my own report or anything, just by observation, that with the technology we created another way for people to fall behind, especially with the kind of dependency that we have on technology, where, as I mentioned, travel or healthcare or job related or trying to get a job, etc. Is that still true? Is it still primarily based upon having means or not? And you said in part that it did. And then how much of this is rural versus urban?
Well, it's certainly the access problem is definitely a rural problem. There are parts of the country, particularly in high elevations and mountainous areas, where it's just not possible to get access to the internet. I think, though, that that problem is certainly being narrowed. The gap is being narrowed. The problem is being solved, and we hope will continue to be solved. The bigger problem, I think if we look at, for example, low-income people, it's much more common now that people have access to the internet through smartphones.
Yes.
Low-income people, by and large, don't have computers at home. They may use computers at the library, and libraries certainly welcome them. But it's a challenge. And then another challenge is if you do have a smartphone, being able to pay your monthly internet service provider fee. And so that means, yes, you have access, but you have access when you can find and get access to a hotspot to get that access. So there's still, I think there's still literally some access problems to the internet. But then for those who have solved those problems, there is this new digital divide aspect, which is here you have in the palm of your hand this incredible computer, which is more powerful than any of the computers you mentioned that we got started with in the personal computers in the 1980s and 1990s. Your smartphone is more powerful than those.
Amazing.
David, so it really has a tremendous potential.
Oh, yeah, and we want to talk about that. We're going to go to a break in about a minute here and touch on just more of the access issue. Not too much, because we do want to also get into the actual ways that the technology could be helping low-income individuals, folks with low basic skills, English language students, etc. So we'll come back with that and talk a little bit more about just the smartphone piece, because at least one study that I saw showed that 85% of low-income individuals had smartphones. Maybe you can help me find the source for that. Anyway, I'm Jose Cruz. This is WS Radio and the Literacy for All show. WS Radio is a worldwide leader in Internet talk.
You take your smartphone almost everywhere you go. Now WSRadio.com can be there too. Search WS Radio in the Play Store for your Android devices or iTunes for Apple, and download the WS Radio application. WSRadio.com, on your phone and in your ear everywhere you go. Download the WS Radio application. Do it now. It's very easy. WSRadio.com.
Looking to be a successful entrepreneur? The virtual assistant industry continues to be a top choice for those looking to start their own business. The problem can be how to become a virtual assistant. Many turn to the Bible of the VA industry, the book Virtual Assistant, the series, and it's the perfect guide for office managers, executive assistants, and other administrative professionals looking to make the transition from employee to successful business owner. Go to vatheseries.com to get your copy today.
Small businesses are the lifeblood of America's economy. Every Thursday, SBA Radio interviews industry professionals and is dedicated to provide small businesses with timely insights and innovations. Visit www.sbaradio.us for details.
Homeless veterans and their families are suffering and need our support, but many won't ask or don't know that help is within reach. Veterans Community Services is here to help. Amazingly, about 35% of the homeless in our neighborhoods are veterans with families. Low-income veterans or their friends are encouraged to contact Veterans Community Services and reach out for help with housing and other services. Call now, 800-974-9909.
Can you imagine a world without children? A world where children don't play, or dream, or imagine?
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're working every day to find cures for diseases that strike down children, because we can't imagine a world without children. Can you?
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. To learn how you can help, log on to our website, stjude.org.
Donate cash, furniture, clothes, and other gently used household items to Father Joe's Villages and get a nice tax break in April. Every donation is tax deductible. Believe you can make a difference. Be Father Joe. Go to neighborhood.org or call 1-800-HOMELESS to donate today.
Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
The San Diego Council on Literacy brings you Literacy for All with your host, Jose Cruz.
Welcome back. I'm Jose Cruz with the San Diego Council on Literacy. We're on Literacy for All radio show on WS Radio. Our guest is David Rosen. He's the president of Newsome Associates, and we're talking about the new digital divide. David, maybe a couple of things that we left hanging, or at least I did, and that is the 85% statistic. Is that accurate that most people, low-income folks, even have smartphones?
Yes, I think it is. It might even be higher. For example, I often talk with teachers of adults, basic skills and English language teachers, and what I'm finding is that particularly English language teachers who teach immigrants tell me that almost, if not every one of their students has a smartphone. And there are good reasons for that. Smartphones give them access to talk with their families who may be abroad, give them opportunities to get information about their home countries, and also give them a wonderful window of opportunity to learn about American culture. But the problem here is not that they don't have access to the Internet through their smartphone, but that they don't know how to use the full capacity of their smartphone for learning. And also for many people, not just immigrants, incidentally, for many people who may be older, many people who may have low basic skills, many people who have chosen not to be part of a culture that has rapidly moved toward integration of technology. There is a lack of readiness and a lack of comfort in using smartphones and in using computers, both. And some of this is attitudes and behaviors, and some of this is just lack of opportunity to learn how to use these devices in a way that's comfortable for people. Some people are not comfortable in going to a class, a computer class, for example, or class in how to use a smartphone. But there are other ways, and we can talk about that another time.
Got it. So we would say some of it is, well, some of the common barriers, I mean, and two of the big ones being culture, whether it's the culture of your family or the culture of your country, where the technology isn't maybe as used as much. So there's that lack of familiarity with the technology, and then there's in some cases it's a language barrier, and so I think what you're challenging, the challenge that you've taken on is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is getting people beyond that and creating a shift maybe culturally within those populations to get them to use the technology in a way that's going to help them with employment and even helping their families and themselves.
Yes, absolutely.
Very good. So those are the primary obstacles. So what's how are you changing things, David? How is that change taking place given the approaches that you're taking with Newsome Associates?
Well, I think some of it is happening without my help. It's, for example, I think in San Diego, and you actually may know more about this, there is an immigrant program that is not focused on education. It's really focused on acculturation and also in helping people get jobs. But as part of that, the participants are very interested in English language learning. And as it turns out, not surprisingly, all of the participants, largely women, I believe, have smartphones. And so the question came up, is there a way that using our smartphones we can improve our English language skills? And indeed, there are many ways. There are quite a few English language apps now, some of them that came about through the X Prize, the Adult Literacy X Prize,
right,
and some of them just developed in other ways. And in this particular program, there was no fear. And these were people who had not used their smartphones for learning before. But they were highly motivated to learn English, and they were willing to overcome whatever obstacles were necessary. And in a conversation with the app developer, I learned that this was some of the most successful use of the app that he's found in a number of settings, school settings, adult English language program settings and others. And this wasn't an English language program. So this is a real eye-opener that with the proper motivation and probably peer support and good online instruction, in this case through an app, there may be many people who can move ahead fairly rapidly in learning English.
So so there is data out there that shows that these apps are working, that people are using them. Quality of the apps is one thing, and then one of the things you referenced was the peer support. And so, which is most important? I guess you need all of those elements in place. You need the
exactly.
The
you need them all.
Yeah, you need them all. So, what are you finding when you're in other countries? What is the country outside the U.S. where you're spending the most time, or finding the greatest divide?
Well, let's see. Let's pick Liberia. Liberia is a very troubled country. They went through a very difficult civil war for nearly 20 years. Then they also had a major health problem and so both of these really set the country back quite a bit. And it's always been a relatively low-income country. But what's happened in the past, maybe 5 years, is widespread use of cell phones. Not necessarily smartphones, although that's increasing now too. Computers, not so much. Computers are available primarily through what many people still refer to as internet cafes. They're not really cafes. They're maybe a little shack with a couple of computers.
Right. Any coffee?
And access to the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, generally not coffee, unfortunately. Only in the high-end ones.
Right.
But it's the digital divide there is just as it was in the 1990s in the U.S. People who have higher income and access to education get access to the internet on a regular basis, and people who do not either have no access, particularly in rural areas, no access, or get access through these internet cafes. And a few people are beginning to get access through smartphones, but nothing like in the United States or in other developed countries.
Got it. So for you to be doing your work in Liberia, it sounds like, one, there's some things that need to take place structurally, maybe agreements, government endorsement of whatever is needed to create connectivity, and then support for the residents in the form of the smartphones or the cell phones. Did the government get you engaged with them? What brought you to Liberia? I
have a long history with Liberia in particular. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Liberia in the late 1960s, and then for the past maybe 15 years, I've gone there with a number of organizations, Education Development Center, for example, and created large-scale programs for out-of-school youth. So most of my work there is not technology-related. Most of it is working with adults or out-of-school youth. The project I'm working with now is actually a family literacy project, and it focuses on helping parents to help their preschool youngsters get ready for school. And the technology is fairly limited in that program. It's cell phones, basically.
Got it. Very good. We have a couple of minutes for this segment, David. Just anything you haven't spoken about as it relates to the digital divide, how your company is helping to close it, and maybe the progress that you see taking place and what's in the future.
Well, there is one thing I'd like to mention, and that is back to the study that I mentioned before, the Pew Research Center study.
That's PEW,
and
right?
That is that one of the, pardon me?
PEW, right, in case people are looking for it.
PEW,
yeah.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Pew, PEW Research Center, and you can Google it and find this study online. But one of the really heartening things is there was a study of what they describe as personal learning, and it's just what you imagine. People getting information that is related to their hobbies and their personal interests. And it turns out that, and this was, I think, a really important finding, that uniformly positive perspectives on the impact of personal learning are more prominent for minorities and lower-income Americans. African Americans and Hispanics who are personal learners are more likely than white Americans to say personal learning opens up new perspectives in their lives.
Oh.
I think that's an important finding. And they said, for example, 80% of African Americans, 77% of Hispanics say this, while only 65% of whites do. So this whole idea of personal learning and using the Internet, using a smartphone or a computer, is really going to open some doors for low-income people and minorities.
I hear it, see it, I feel it, and I think that's really it's good information just in terms of closing the opportunity gap, or just people having plans in their lives and maybe not thinking that they have the resources. And one of the biggest resources is information. And here with the internet and smartphones and such, we're creating access to that information. Hey, David, we're going to sign off here for this segment and bring you back in the next one on I would say a related topic. And so before we sign off, how can folks find you?
My email is djrosen123@gmail.com.
Very good.
So that's djrosen123@gmail.com.
Excellent. I'm Jose Cruz. This is Literacy for All Radio, and we're on WS Radio, the worldwide leader in Internet talk.
Nowadays, internet devices are an integral part of your home. Everyone in your family has a smartphone, tablet, or a computer. Life is easier knowing that all your devices are secured and your family can surf the internet carefree. ESET Multi-Device Security Pack does just that. One license for all your devices. With ESET, it's simple to stay protected and save money. Enjoy safer technology with ESET Multi-Device Security Pack at ESET.com. That's ESET.com.
On the internet, your business's reputation can be unjustly destroyed in an instant. Don't wait for that to happen. Building and marketing your 5-star reputation can increase your business by as much as 19%. Take control of your reputation and have the 5-star reputation you deserve with Reputation Marketing Solutions by DSI Development. Become the go-to company by visiting 5starrepmarketing.com. The number 5starrepmarketing.com.
Hey, it's Catherine from Listen Local Radio. Moe's Guitars has proudly served the San Diego music community since 1975. Specializing in guitars, basses, mandolins, banjos, and ukuleles, they buy, sell, trade, and consign. If you're looking for lessons, repairs, accessories, and cool gear, you found the right place. Located in downtown La Mesa Village, stop by and check out their digs or visit moesguitars.com or their Facebook page. mozeguitars.com, 619-698-1185.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McAuliffe brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcAuliffe.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. McAuliffe. ChristopherMcAuliffe.com. Nowadays, internet devices are an integral part of your home. Everyone in your family has a smartphone, tablet, or a computer. Life is easier knowing that all your devices are secured and your family can surf the internet carefree. ESET Multi-Device Security Pack does just that. One license for all your devices. With ESET, it's simple to stay protected and save money. Enjoy safer technology with ESET Multi-Device Security Pack at ESET.com. That's ESET.com. Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McAuliffe brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose.
Visit ChristopherMcAuliffe.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. MCAULIFFE. ChristopherMcAuliffe.com.